feet, basically. And so Captain America and the rest of them kind of go back to the United States to figure out what's going on, because they know that Tony is missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we get a flashback of Gamora when she's a kid on her planet, and you see Thanos kind of basically wipe out half the planet, and that's where you kind of get her backstory, which was kind of hinted at in Guardians 1.
Where she basically that Thanos is like her weird father figure.
Yeah, kind of like
he spared her life while wiping out pretty much like half her planet.
I think half her planet, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
50%.
Mm-hmm.
This is thing.
Yeah, equal. He's a thing about balance. Oh, and then we cut back again to the Guardians, where Gamora basically makes Peter Quill, or Star-Lord, promise her that if Thanos ever catches her, that he is to kill her, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because she knows something that Thanos wants, and she knows that she'll probably end up giving him that information if she's still alive. And then he's basically like, no, I can't do that. And she's like, promise me, like on your mother's life, or on your mother, like, you know. So that's like a touchy subject for him, you know, how much he loves his mom. And that's that scene where Drax is just standing there eating like the walnuts or whatever, and he's like, bro, how long have you been standing there? He's like, for an hour. And then, like, they're making out, and he's like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I have mastered the skill of staying completely still. I become invisible to the eye. And then he's just like, watch. And then he's eating like a walnut as he's doing it, and he's like, I can see you. He's like, no, I'm invisible. And who else? That's when what's her name? The girl with the antennas.
Mantis?
Mantis, yeah. She comes over and she's like, oh, hi, Drax. He's like, damn it. And then he just walks away. I think the chemistry between that crew, that cast, is awesome. They're still the same people, which I love. And then what else? So they go to Nowhere, the Guardians, which is a place that we saw in Guardians 1 with the Collector, Benicio del Toro, right? He played. Because they know that the other gem is there, the Reality Stone is there, and they know that he has it because Thor told them that after they beat the Dark Elves in Thor 2, that's where he took it. Yeah. So they go there and they see Thanos kind of interrogating the Collector, and they have this kind of plan to jump Thanos. And Gamora doesn't really listen. She just jumps right in, and she basically kills Thanos. And then you hear Thanos' voice kind of in the background saying like, oh, like I forget what he said to her, but then you obviously figure out that he's still alive.
He's manipulated the environment.
Yeah, because
right?
with the Reality Stone, that he then you figure out he already has it, and so the trip there was all for naught, because they went there to stop him from getting it, but he got it anyways, and he basically takes down the little Guardian crew that was there, and captures Gamora, and then she says, oh, Peter, you know, you made a promise to me, you gotta kill me now. And then Thanos even says, you know, she asked for it, she's asking for it, give it to her. And he you know, he can't pull the trigger, and then they say I love you to each other, and then he ends up pulling the trigger, but Thanos turns it into a bubble gun and just shoots out bubbles, and then he's just like, oh, what the fuck. And Thanos says, you know, oh, I really like him. and then just disappears into a wormhole back to his spaceship or whatever. So the Avengers meet up with War Machine or Rhodey, and then they figure out that they need to go to a safe place where they can safely remove Vision's stone that he has in his forehead, and that takes them to Wakanda. And then that's where you see T'Challa, or Black Panther, giving Bucky his new arm made out of vibranium, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool part.
Yeah, and that's where he's kind of adopted the nickname the White Wolf instead of the Winter Soldier, what he used to be called. An interesting fact about the White Wolf, that's a totally different character in the comic books. But yeah, thought I'd throw that in there. What else? Doctor Strange is being tortured on the ship. Ebony Maw, who is the real skinny looking, Squidward looking guy, he's kind of torturing him with some space surgery tools, I guess, and he won't give it up. And then that's when Tony's kind of above them, and he's trying to figure out how he's gonna get Doctor Strange free.
He snuck on the ship.
Yeah, he snuck on as well
to get Doctor Strange back.
Yeah.
It's like a rescue mission, and then he finds Peter.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Stark, what the hell are you doing here, kid? I told you to get out of here." He's like, "Well, it's kind of your fault because this suit is really intuitive." He's like, "I thought about climbing. I thought about grabbing onto the wall, and my webs kind of just shot out by themselves." He's like, "So basically, it's like your fault that I'm here." He's like, "But this is pretty awesome." And then, so they're trying to figure out this way to, trying to make some type of plan to get rid of, or just to save Doctor Strange. And then he's like, "Hey, have you ever seen this really old movie called Aliens?" And then it cuts to Ebony Maw kind of saying some remarks to Doctor Strange or whatever, and that's when Iron Man kind of shows up, and he's like, "My powers are far more greater than yours are. Like, you're nothing compared to me." He's like, "Yeah, that may be true, but this is the kid's idea." And he shoots the hole in the wall, and just sucks him out into space. And it's from Aliens, if you're not familiar.
And he closes it up with his webs, right?
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with that, that's where they got that from.
Ripley sucks out the Queen.
Yeah.
From the side of the ship.
Mm-hmm. And then what else do we have? Peter Parker kind of introduces himself to Doctor Strange. He's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Peter Parker." And he's like, "I'm Doctor Strange." And he's like, "Oh, we're using our superhero names." And he's like, "Well, I'm Spider-Man then." And that's kind of you see that in the trailers. What else? Tony kind of initiates Peter into becoming an Avenger. He kind of like knights him. And he says, like, "Oh, congratulations, kid, you're an Avenger now." And then so you get to see this cool look on Peter's face where he's like, "Oh, like, finally." And because that's all he was about in Homecoming, just trying to become an Avenger. What else do we have? Thanos. We cut back to Thanos. There's a lot of going back and forth in this movie. That's why I'm kind of jumping all over the place. Thanos is kind of explaining to Gamora why he's doing what he's doing. That the world or the universe is in constant need of a balance. So his whole goal is to snap his fingers and basically erase half of the universe, or all life in the universe, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because then he explains to Gamora, like, "Well, you destroyed, my planet. You killed half the people on there." And then he says, "Well, everyone that was born after that, they've known nothing but full bellies and clear skies, because like everybody knows, when the population grows too big, the resources on that planet deplete. Yeah, and that's one thing he says. Like, resources are finite. Once they're gone, they're gone, and that's kind of his plan, I guess, to create this balance between life and death. So, anyways, he kind of Thanos has been torturing Nebula, who is Gamora's like half sister or adopted sister with her, and he makes Gamora tell him where the Soul Stone is, and it's on a planet called Vormir. So then we cut back to Thor and Rocket and Groot, and they're on their way to Nidavellir. I don't know how to say that name of that planet. I'm sorry. You can hate me later. But it's the place where they make the hammer and everything. And they see that it's been kind of dead. Like the star is no longer burning. The forge has gone dark, basically. And they show up, and you get introduced to Eitri, who is played by the guy from Game of Thrones. What's his name?
I forget.
You know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
But he's like super, like
a giant.
Yeah, he's a giant, so he's not really there. But that's pretty cool how they did that. And I guess they use like these big giant guys to forge their weapons, basically. And you find out that Thanos has already been there, and that's how he got the gauntlet. He told him basically to make him something that can hold all the Infinity Stones, and he did that. And then he killed everyone except for him on that forge, and that's when he makes the Stormbreaker, and he basically almost dies trying to do it, because he has to reactivate the sun or the star that's there, that they use to melt down the specific metal that they use. And Groot basically chops off his arm to make a handle for the Stormbreaker, or that's what they call his new hammer/axe thing. Oh yeah, so the attack on Wakanda, that's happening. There's this big giant force field around Wakanda, so no one can really get in. And then it cuts back to everyone on Titan, and that's when Star-Lord and the rest of the Guardians meet Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Iron Man. And they're kind of attacking each other because the Guardians think that they're with Thanos. And then they're kind of all in a standoff, and Doctor Strange asks, who do you serve? And then Peter Quill's like, what am I supposed to say, Jesus? And then Iron Man's like, you're from Earth. And he's like, yeah, I'm from Earth. He's like, no, I'm from Wisconsin, or he's like, I'm from Nebraska or something. And he's like, yeah, that's from Earth. So they figure out that they're all on the same team. Basically, they're all there for Thanos. And then they come up with this plan to try to defeat him. And that's when you see Doctor Strange kind of going through this weird meditating seizure thing that he's basically using the time stone to go into the future and see all the possible outcomes. And they ask him, how many did you see? And then he even says 14,605 possible outcomes. And then they ask, how many did we win? And he says 1. So they only win one time in the 14 million timelines, basically. It's not really good odds. What else do we have? We cut back to Thanos and Gamora traveling to Vormir, and that's when you see we get reintroduced to the Red Skull from Captain America, the first Avenger. And that's where you find out where he's been since then, because he kind of got sucked into another dimension when he was messing with the Tesseract at the end. And he's kind of like the guide for anyone who tries to get the Soul Stone. And he basically explains to Thanos and Gamora that in order to get the Soul Stone, you have to sacrifice something that you truly love. And then that's when Gamora starts laughing, and she's like, finally, I've been waiting for this. You asked the universe for something, and it said no. And then you see Thanos kind of kind of like quivering or crying, and then she's like, "Oh, you're crying," like, and